As long as I'm listening to those whispers of the universe, things are going to work out. Sometimes it's just working out. Sometimes giving it the permission to somebody, or at least they hear it's like a permission to do less meditation, do less of something, take some things off their plate, have some conversations with people who are close to them in their lives. I can put together and string the thread of what's going on in their lives or has been going on, and why they've been stuck in some ways, or anger, or repressing their anger and anxiety with some sort of medications. I think everybody in their level of amnesia or awakening are in a perfect place at all times.
Welcome to episode 55 of Super States, Practices of Transformation with me, your host, Joshua Peters. Super States explores the crossroad of trance states with personal or professional growth. And in every episode, we talk to experts, industry leaders, revolutionary thinkers, people who are sharing with us the latest information, tools, and their own personal stories to inspire you on your journey. Make sure to subscribe to Super States through your favorite podcast host or on YouTube so you can stay up to date with new episodes. And if you enjoy this show, give me a 5-star review to help the show grow. I'm excited today to speak with Yoni Havana. Yoni is a holistic lifestyle and awakening guide, and he's dedicated his life to helping others find alignment, purpose, and peace. He's got a background in tech entrepreneurship and a personal journey through holistic health and spiritual awakening. Yoni combines his diverse experiences to guide people towards a more meaningful and balanced life. Prepare yourself for a journey into the realms of holistic healing and awakening with Yoni Havana. Welcome to Super States. I'm here today with Yoni Havana. Yoni, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Joshua. It's great to be here.
Yoni, I always start with a question to the guest. So describe to us what you do and how that impacts people's lives, either yourself or others.
So I call myself a holistic lifestyle and awakening guide. And with that, I started learning about holistic health for a few reasons, but it started as a kid. I had asthma, and swimming, in short, was the answer. So I realized there are simple solutions to the human body. And then I realized there's more than the physical body. There's the emotional body, mental body, spiritual body. I started learning about all the aspects of life. And so holistic health came into the picture, and it came for my wife, whom I met over 10 years ago, and she was dealing with Crohn's disease. So I was really adamant on having call it a smoother experience in the physical body, kind of starting there and then realizing how it all connects, and it's not in isolation. We're gonna just treat this specific condition. The awakening part came thanks to different instances of seeing the greater form of reality beyond the third dimensional reality, and realizing that I'm constantly, at least I am, awakening to different aspects of how the universe is made, how I operate, the layers of self, and then bringing it to other people, seeing the merging both worlds, the holistic health and the awakening parts together, to help others find more alignment in their lives, more meaning, more purpose, to enjoy this experience as much as possible and to make it meaningful, work on karma. That's the gist of it.
So holistic life coaching. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. And how'd you get to this point? Like, share what's your background, your what do they call it? Your origin story.
Yeah. So I let me see. I started getting into holistic health from a young age because the asthma, and I was perhaps born with scoliosis or had developed scoliosis from a young age. So I was dealing with, some sort of pain to be able to just want to play soccer in the land of Israel where I grew up, just being a kid. And that was from an early stage. So I kept on taking care of the body in a good way, but I didn't major in that. I was groomed to be more into the left brain, lucrative work of tech, mostly just computers, software. And so that's the path that I chose. And I became an entrepreneur, uh, running and raising money for a startup from a young age. And so I went with the tech route for a long time, but I always had the passion of taking care of myself in that way. I was
Hmm.
priding myself of no doctors and no surgeries and not taking Tylenol, ibuprofen, all of the above, of living a medicine-free life in that way, a Western medicine, allopathic medicine-free life.
Hmm.
And I just kept doing the tech thing for a long time. After this, my startup really didn't go anywhere. I started a digital boutique agency and was doing pretty well there. But really, what set the tone for the path that I'm on now was when my wife was on medicine for treating Humira. She was getting injections every 2 weeks to keep it at bay, and she got off it before giving birth to our first child. So about 4 weeks before delivery time, we decided she should stay off the medicine. We'll figure it out because she didn't have any flare-ups for the years that she's been on it. Let's see if it's actually needed. And so with COVID happening, her not going back to work for a few months, getting off the medicine similar to hormonal imbalance, postpartum depression, just a perfect storm of depression.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, it was brutal for her. It was brutal for me. So we were kind of stuck, the three of us, in an apartment, not being able to really go outside or see. Many people didn't even want to hang out of fear,
Hmm.
um, and so we dealt with that for a while. We tried different methodologies like hypnotherapy and supplementation and treating adrenals and meditation and journaling, but the biggest turning point was a plant medicine journey, actually guided by my business partner who was on your podcast, Michael Tierno.
Hmm.
And she flew out to California, did a journey with him, and that was the 180 on life, where she was able to connect with the oneness of the universe and perceive how the trickling down effects of her emotional state and her physical state comes from her thoughts. That's where it begins. And
Mm.
so she had that taste, and from that point, she thought she was healed for a week, and then she realized it was a honeymoon period. The thoughts came coming back. I've recently learned from a great teacher named Michael Singer that the emotional body and mental body are married, and there's no way to get a divorce there, so they impact one another. And
Hmm.
eventually, she got into the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, of doing longer and more, I'm going to call it more advanced meditation that also has to do with the theoretical, psychological aspects of how we operate.
Hmm.
She got into that. She still does the practice to this day, every morning, early in the morning, for at least an hour, maintaining and keep awakening herself and being able to have the awareness. And so she got on a whole different path. I got on a whole different path, seeing the results that she had with the awakening part of working with plants and meditation, having a bigger awareness, and having the courage to take steps um, towards, becoming a more well balanced person in terms of alignment and physical. Um, and yeah, that's how I ended up becoming a guide, because I realized the power, firsthand with my wife. The person that I cared about most was down in the trenches, and I was determined to help her. And I
Yeah.
was kind of alone on that journey too. Um, and not many people are open to those aspects of life. And also during COVID, there was no help in person, and yeah, there was just lower states of vibration all around. So it was a tough time, and
Yeah.
out of that came the good stuff, the real
Okay.
learnings.
So you had these kinds of experiences, and it shifted kind of how you were thinking about, I don't know, reality in some ways. What was your next step? Like, how did you start working with other people?
I actually got my, I think while she was in the depression, going through it before the plant medicine journey, I took on a certification with the Czech Institute, started by Paul Czech, which is for holistic health. And
Hmm.
so I studied more, and then I realized that, at least for her part, and I don't know if it's going to apply for other people that may listen to this, but Crohn's disease, which is a new form disease, comes from a leaky gut issue.
Mm.
And she actually had a leaky gut issue and a fungus infection. And as a result, perhaps there was something that is also labeled as Crohn's, but we dealt with that, and then I realized I want to help more people with the holistic health part. And then while when I realized the biggest mover was having the plant medicine journey of like having the bigger perspective and then having more motivation to take action, to do the integration for the physical body and the emotional mental bodies with the meditation, other practices. And so actually Michael Tierno and I were doing some journeying together with plant medicine, just the two of us, a few times. And kind of out of nowhere, when we thought we were going to do a bigger dose, we're going to go take a deep dive, nothing happened. And before we knew it, we were working on a men's retreat
Mm.
that came out of nowhere. So I never planned to do this work. I didn't know it's going to be something that I would have gifts for or a calling for. I was doing the tech work. I was good at that for a very long time from a young age. It was paying the bills. It was not risky in all the aspects of it. And over time, people just heard that that's what I'm doing. I got more training and also work closely with two mentors, but one of them in particular that also Mike Tierno works with. Her
Mhm.
name is Dr. Aubrey Degnan. She's an elder sage in California. She wrote a manual on enlightenment, or the psychology of enlightenment. And
Mm.
so, yeah, I got a bunch of training in different places, and the word of mouth. Eventually, there was a tipping point.
Yeah.
Working with a few people, I was pretty resistant to doing that, to doing that aspect of life. Running a young family, but I realized the calling is strong and it's my mission. So I answered. I heed the call.
Yeah. Good. Good for you.
Thank you.
Sometimes that's the hardest thing is to follow through when, like, well, a lot of us will hear the call, but then heeding the call is the next step.
Absolutely. I think that's the awareness comes in, and then the courage was to
Yeah.
follow, and it took it took a deeper level of courage and trust. And then that's what I'm working with these days, is the trust, the greater trust in the divine, the faith, um, that as long as I'm listening to those whispers of the universe, things are going to work out
Yeah.
and everybody's going to be fine.
Yeah. That's one of my lessons that I keep getting to. So
Mm.
appreciate you sharing that. When when I talked with Michael, he focuses a lot on working with men. Is that the same case for you? You guys said you're business partners, so do you do a lot of men's work then?
Our retreats are directed at men.
Mhm.
Otherwise, the other work that I'm doing open to everybody. So
Okay. All right.
it was more natural and easier for us to work with men, just the nature of ourselves. And I've been married for over 10 years, and it still takes a good amount of learning of how
Yeah.
um, women work and how they think and operate, and their cycles, and quite a different system going on in there. And so, yeah, the retreats themselves are aimed at men, and that's kind of our baby in some ways.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah. And it's interesting because it keeps expanding. I thought, I'd be only working with men for a while, a certain type of men, and lo and behold, the universe brings all walks of life, in all circumstances. And it's kind of a relationship thing. I think people are meant to work with certain people, and it's not necessarily their level of education sometimes or expertise in something. It has to do with a resonance and trust. And
Yeah.
so there are definitely a lot of other teachers that have way more experience than I do and way more wisdom. There's a level of resonance, and I'm a young family guy, and I have certain background in Judaism and the tech life that I walked, and I was a self-proclaimed atheist for a long time. So there's a
Mhm.
resonance with, I think, with my story, my learnings, that works for some people. They find this is very comfortable to open up to me and do inner work when I'm holding space for them and guiding them.
And that's very important. So, first of all, I want to acknowledge you for holding that space for men in particular, because that is vital. for the men in the world to have spaces like what you're creating for them, to be able to open up. And then when you are opening up like you just described to them and kind of sharing your own, shit that happened, that's also important because now they can resonate, they can feel safe.
Thank you.
When you're working with a new client, so outside of the men's work, describe the process that you go through. When they're coming to you, how do you first start working with them?
Yeah, when people have interest to work with me, I described it in my process that it has to do with a longer preparation period and a longer integration period than perhaps most trip sitters that I've heard about or more traditional.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of value in preparing and doing inner work before to see what comes to the surface. There's a lot of work that can be done before, and wanting to be able to surrender and really be aware and concentrate in those peak experiences during a journey. So, we kind of, the first conversation would to see their, engage their mental, emotional stability and to hear where they're at, and also hear about how they're doing physically, if there are any medications and such. And there's a special time for somebody, at least in my opinion, to do a plant medicine journey. And
Mm.
I think there's a level of stability and groundedness that is most beneficial and most safe to not rock the boat too much. If somebody's in already in a turmoil, that can actually create more turmoil because the
Mm.
everyday life is not in an expended state. And so we'll kind of gather that, and if that sounds like we're resonating and they're in a grounded, good place to do it, we'll start. We'll set a date for a journey and backtrack and do some preparation sessions. The minimum that I would do would be about 3 hours of preparations, depending on how seasoned one would be, and the integration would also be a minimum of 3 hours. Usually,
Mm.
I do longer than that. It depends on the person, but sometimes it's a couple months of meeting weekly, and I'm kind of giving what we call homework or tasks.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be journaling. It could be working with. I enjoy different medicines like hape, rape, sananga. I mean, sometimes it's just working out. Sometimes giving it the permission to somebody, or at least they hear it's like a permission to do less meditation, do less of something, get more rest, take some things off their plate, have some conversations with people who are close to them in their lives, and a lot of relating. It's just a lot of relating. A lot of I'm doing active listening,
Yeah.
and echoing to them what I'm hearing, and we're kind of finding those ickier, stickier points. And so that's been my process so far, and I'm still learning a lot. I've only been doing this for a few years, um, so that's where it's at in the moment. And I think the journeys themselves, which I was hoping for in the past would do most of the heavy lifting, turn out to be about 1 to perhaps 5-10%, and about the 90% or more is the preparation integration of the
Mm.
journeys.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective there. I wonder if one of the things that I find is that connection with a client is pretty important. So the fact that you're building that beforehand and then afterwards too is probably a big piece of what's helping them move through whatever it is that they're moving through.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it helps me to know, I get to know them deeply. So when things come up or if they don't come up, I can lead them towards something. I can see in
Mm-hmm.
somebody's facial expressions, in their tone of voice when they're speaking about something that happened to them. They may not think it's that important, but I'm finding, I can put together and string the thread of what's going on in their lives or has been going on, and why they've been stuck in some ways, or anger, or repressing their anger and anxiety with some sort of medications. It's much easier to see from the outside. Same for
Yeah.
me. I love when people call me out on things. Sometimes it hurts, and I'm eating some guilt and self judgment for a little while, and I'm in awareness, and I may do some emotional eating. Um, you know, so, but I'm so grateful for when people call me out, because that's when somebody called me out recently, like a week ago, And it was great because that's where I grow. When I'm being like, hey, you're not showing up fully in this way, or you're bypassing something. It seems
Yeah.
like you're not going deeply into your heart. You're going to your heart, but not that deeply. Like, it looks like a little bit of shallow work. I love hearing that.
Yeah.
And also I'm like, shit. But it's like, this is where the gold is. Please enlighten me.
That's pretty important. I resonate with that. Uh, so you've been doing this for a couple years. What do you think has changed from when you first started?
A lot has changed. A lot. Everything is changing so quickly, And I started a podcast. It's my third podcast. It's my only solo podcast that I started in May of 2023. And even looking back at the conversations that I've had over those few months, and I did a first season, and I recorded some episodes for season two, which I'm quite behind on editing. Um, but I'm looking back at the conversations, like I'm learning so much about life, about how things work, that there's some level of shame, I think, in some ways, and like, oh, like I'm happy that I've grown, but it's like I didn't know what I was talking about in some ways.
Mm,
So it's nice to see. I'm learning a ton. I'm to to think about examples. I'm kind of have to dig in there. Um, I'm much more tuned into being just supremely present, and rather than
mm,
have ideas on how things should go. And so I prepare, especially with my mentors, for guiding people in journeys and working with them. I have some tools, and the tools can be um, gestalt work, interfamily systems, specific work to change the stories in our minds, especially in an expanded state, about how things end of some traumas. I have all kinds of tools and possibilities, and a bunch of times I think I would perhaps try to guide more, to feel for myself that I've done something productive, that someone got something out of it. But now I'm much more gentle about it. If it comes the right timing, I will hit with it, and otherwise I stay out of the way with as much as I can, with lack of attachment to what seems to be productive or successful in that day,
mm.
or in general, and knowing that the divine will do what it's best in here. And it's not my job to, or my egoic identity, to interrupt the flow. Just really follow the flow. It's not about me. It's not about what I perceive to be productive. Let's just keep going with it. And there's a good amount of doubt. We'll chime in and just putting the doubt to rest. I hear the mind. So I think I embodied a deeper level of awareness, and letting go and surrender to the flow of life, and I'm able to really channel the divine in that kind of way. And it's not channel necessarily a message from a higher level being, but whatever the flow wants to do. And I'm,
Yeah.
I'm there. I'm
Yeah.
there as a vehicle to help, as another mirror for another person, another conduit, to have an experience, to go deeper into their hearts, and to connect some things from of in their sub they come from their subconscious, or come from the higher realms of their mind. So that's what has changed. It's less mechanical, it's more heartful, and it's more
Mm.
flowy.
Yeah. I appreciate that. What would you say is there's a lot of preface this question. There's a lot of talk around psychedelics, around sacred medicines. There's a lot of people that are stepping into kind of being the trip sitter kind of a person. What would you say is most misunderstood about what you do?
It's a good question. I have to admit that I don't know that many trip sitters and guides myself. I am in a psychedelic guide network, and that's the name of the network. So I'm getting to know many, many more. Um, I think a lot of people, because it's such a new thing in a lot of ways, especially for Western people.
Hmm.
Northern California has been leading the charts there with the Center of Conscious Medicine. Used to be the School of Conscious Medicine, very underground. Michael Pollan comes out with How to Change Your Mind and tells a story in 2018 about what's been going on in there. But I think, and it's still true, I think, to a lot of trip sitters, There's some trip sitters that their job is really just to hold the space, make sure the person is super safe, and that's it. Really not intervene at all. And that's a method that I respect, and I think it's great. And that's what some people do. They have an energetical, um, what do you call it, embodiment that just makes people at ease, and they're doing their own work, and there's no coloring whatsoever from the trip sitter.
Mm.
I've been called to do a more active guidance, and that's where I have to watch the line of like, do I want to do this for myself to feel like I'm useful and I'm justifying me being here, or do I actually have something? And sometimes it's leading people with just a bunch of questions to find their own answers, and sometimes it's giving them a clue, and
Mm.
sometimes it's directing them to go outside. Sometimes it's directing them to do some sort of a physical pose, or introducing another medicine during a journey or a practice. And so it's been interesting to just watch myself, but I have to admit I don't know what would be, from other people's perspectives, what they would expect that to be. I think they,
Mm.
with a plethora of documentaries and articles, I don't even know. To be honest with you, I don't have a TV, so I don't know if there are TV shows about it. Uh, um, I don't know what the perception is of what the experience would be, but I think perhaps, and for me too, a lot of, the earlier perceptions, and perhaps still, is that the journey itself is going to be like a magic pill. I'm going to come in. I'm gonna come in with something to heal, and I'm going to go out on the other end healed,
Mm-hmm.
and that's going to do the heavy lifting for me, not the preparation integration work of looking inwards with my own mind and an open heart, and doing some other things, and having some, sometimes harder conversations with self and others, and figuring out and have the awareness, to watch our state of beings and our choices and actions and all that. So
Yeah.
I wonder if that's what's happening. Perhaps you have more insights than I do.
Well, it sounds like from your perspective, it's more the pre-work and the post-work the is the most important piece of what's happening here. And the experience itself, it's maybe a catalyst, but
Hmm.
it's not where you're definitely not integrating during that. Like doing this integration work is, whether it's with psychedelics or any kind of experience, really is really important to ground the the new energies, the changes that you're making into the here and now, like to the rest of your life.
Absolutely, that's exactly how I think about a catalyst. Sometimes I like to describe it to people as like a surgery, but you got to do the
Yeah.
PT before, and preparing for the surgery as much as possible by sometimes losing weight, and training the rest of the body, whether we're working on the knee so the other leg will be as strong as possible, and as a result the body just gets strong. There's a lot of research on the physical body in that way. It's the same
Mm.
thing for the emotional and mental bodies and spiritual body, being open, like more suggestible to see how the fabric of the universe works, rather than, when people usually outsource their spirituality to a reverend, a priest, a rabbi. And this is how it is. Just give me the goods. I'm going to show up on Sunday and tell me what's your connection to the divine, so I can have a connection to God through you. You know,
Mhm. And that works for some people.
absolutely. And I think there's a perfect harmony, in everything, and it's absolutely perfect at all times. It's just a level of, awakening when someone feels like it's not working for them anymore, and then they're seeking the next, level of truth, to how things are working, or the next level of awareness into what's the deeper realities. But I think everybody in their level of amnesia or awakening are in a perfect place at all times.
Hmm. So i- what are some of the types of issues or challenges that somebody might have that would reach out to you?
Let's see. Thinking of some recent challenges. There's a lot of depression and anxiety,
Yeah.
and, specifically, as I was mentioning, the priest and reverends. There's, unfortunately, and let's say from Christianity, as I'm taking just some of the recent ones, there's a lot of, you're going to hell, if you
Mm-hmm.
don't do this or that, or if you do X, Y, and Z from a very young age. So there's a lot of programming of unworthiness, of self-hatred, that is deep, deep, deep into people. And I'm seeing people in their 50s and say, from I haven't felt worthy, or I felt like I'm going to hell since I was 4. Whether consciously I thought like, no, that doesn't make sense, but subconsciously, that has been said so many times. Um, People, a lot of people work with, yeah, a lot of people work with self-hatred. There's a good amount of people that feel dissatisfaction. They don't really feel they have a meaningful and purposeful life, and that happens to a lot of men. And then that's why I love doing the men's retreats, because we're honing in on what is the deeper meaning and purpose. And I think every soul being in a physical body has a purpose in the world to be of service to the greater good. And when they are doing their service, the demand shows up and everything kind of flows pretty well for them. So they're getting their basic needs met, and appreciation and gratitude, and they feel useful in the world and needed. And so, yeah, I think that a lack of meaning and purpose, self-hatred, sometimes it's just relationship stuff, loneliness. um, what has been recent in here? And there's just the seekers that say, like, I understand that healing is a such a multifaceted process, that they've done some healing and they want to see what's next. Like, I notice my patterns in X, Y, and Z. I know there's more ancestral healing to do, which is a lot of what I'm doing personally. A lot of ancestral healing. Most of the journeys that I've done and am doing is about cleaning the bloodline and transmuting the darkness, into traumas that my ancestors have lived through. And I can
Mm-hmm.
see the visions of those when I tap into my DNA, into my heart, and I let those express, so they can be transmuted by Mother Earth in some ways, or by however forces. It's hard for me to determine, but I let it express. I find it within my body somehow, and it expresses, and I feel like there is a liberation happening. So there are great levels of pain by letting those memories reenact. And I know they're not mine, because I keep going into the Holocaust
Mm-hmm.
specifically.
Yeah.
And then when they express, it moves on. So on that, there's people that are coming for ancestral healing. So
Mm.
different, you know that's what comes to mind at the moment from the recent ones that I've done.
Okay.
Perhaps more will
Yeah.
come.
Okay. Well, and you just kind of gave me a wide variety of things there, from anxiety, depression to ancestral healing. So I love
Mm.
that. It sounds like this is pretty flexible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's inner work. Inner work is it's all encompassing.
Yeah.
Inner work is coming from, kind of being in pain in some way, being in distress in some way, to going into a state of being that is more of love, peace, and joy. And I'm thinking of the map of consciousness. That Have you heard about the map of
I
consciousness
have.
from,
Yeah.
yeah, Doc Hawkins? And so Doc Hawkins' map of consciousness shows the lower levels of consciousness, and the lowest ones are shame, guilt. There's some fear there, even desire, anger. Into the higher levels is a level of integrity, of courage. And when people find that courage, they go into neutrality and acceptance, forgiveness, reason, um, love, joy, peace, and then enlightenment. So it's really in the lower levels of consciousness, it describes as forceful. It's when we try to force life. It's a bit more. There's less flow in that. There's more friction into a
Mm-hmm.
more powerful state of being that comes in more ease and effortlessness. And I have seen firsthand the benefits of doing that. And I fluctuate in the map of consciousness myself. I can get into anger,
Mm-hmm.
just noticing my patterns. And this part of my work is to help people figure out where it's coming from, what are the wounds that create those other triggers and programs, get into really the core of those, do the seeds, work on those, transmute those, and let them go, let them kind of burn away and dissipate, and work from a more natural state. And there's a natural state of abundance, of peace, love, joy. And I think
Yeah.
it's inexhaustible. It's, people say, what's the answer? Love is the answer. It's love. It's not necessarily the love that we think about in the movies of people kissing and hugging. It's just the I believe it's the fabric of the universe, which is hard to
Yeah.
explain in words.
No, but you can experience it in a medicine journey.
And a lot of people can experience it all the time.
Yeah.
um I say a lot in absolute numbers, not necessarily as percentage. um but there's
Right.
yeah, yeah,
There are a certain amount of people that experience it all the time.
yeah. Or see it
So,
or see it perhaps sometimes in something. Perhaps it's not that overwhelming, but they can see how it's
yeah,
made for love, how even the pain is made for experiencing duality and the sensations of pain and suffering
yeah,
in the
right.
body.
And I think that's the key right there is it's just an experience. And
Hmm.
every experience at a some level has beauty to it, even if
Absolutely.
it's hard and
I think
painful.
a lot of beauty. Pain is one of my favorite teachers, as masochistic as that may sound, but it's one of my favorite teachers because it's a strong one. It's
Yeah.
illuminating, and the duality the polarity between the pain and the ease, is very satisfying in a lot of ways. And I think that's part
Yeah.
of the descending. It's like it's kumbaya up there, in the lighter dimensions in terms of their density, to descend, let's say, to the lower dimension of third dimensional living, of a more harder one that we can feel and perceive the
Hmm.
sensations of. That's kind of part of it. It's like it's hard, and now I can see how light that is.
Right. It's like you have to have one to define the other, or else
Yeah,
we would just be in this kind of purgatory of everything's the same.
absolutely, singularity. Yeah.
Do you? So one of the things that I like about what you're doing is you're helping people prepare for an experience. Do you have any techniques that you could share on how someone could prepare if they were going to have an experience like you're talking about?
Good question. um good question. Usually what I do, and I may have touched on this, I just speak to people and see what that comes up and give them advice based on that. So it's pretty curated, but in general I would say journaling would be, I think, of the best things to look into.
Hmm.
And to for example, I send forms that are very thorough in the 11 aspects of life, from physical to relationships, spiritual. So self-examining ourselves, journaling, and I think also having trusted allies that can go deep with us. There's a card of those decks of cards games of just asking deeper questions, let's say, with a
Sure. Yeah.
trusted
Yeah.
ally. And it could be a spouse, it could be a friend, it could be I don't know, a family member, somebody we trust who's going to go deep, who's going to have the courage to really and listen to us and be there for us and reflect to us what we're saying.
Mm.
So and lead us deeper into our hearts. Starting to look inwards would
Yeah.
be, I think, the best thing to do.
Mm.
And people and those trusted allies, perhaps, to say, like, I'm noticing that you're in those patterns. Perhaps you want to give yourself some grace on don't I've given grace to people, just they've been meditating for a lot of people are just extreme meditators, let's say. And there's like, it's not going well, it's a lot of such others. Just don't meditate for a week, don't meditate for the 2 weeks, just take a break of the grace of taking a break from something. And sometimes easing down on a relationship. And I've given advice to people just to fire a nanny who was no longer working for them, and it was becoming toxic in some ways. And I've also given advice to people just to take a little step back from a certain relationship that seems to be triggering them quite a bit or draining them quite a bit. And I'm not
Mhm.
about with that. I don't think canceling people is good. I think there's a time and place to facing them and being super honest. It depends on the person, their level of capacity, their nervous system level of capacity, to have a conversation. If not, sometimes it's just like, take the time for yourself, honor yourself, respect yourself, recharge, and get ready to work on yourself more deeply. So perhaps eventually you can have a more honest and grounded conversation with someone about your dynamic and how it's not working for you in this way, and you want to reshape the relationship and lead from a different place or be led in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's vital to know what you want.
It's hard.
It is hard. It's a lot easier to have people tell you what you want.
Yeah. And then I think the trusted allies really given people that know us well and have our best interests can help from seeing it from the outside. That's
Okay.
I've seen that over and over again.
Mm. If someone's interested in pursuing a medicine journey like what we're talking about, are there anything that they need to keep in mind? Is there any risk to that? Like, what are the things that they should be aware of?
Whew, if I were them, I would do a little bit of research, but not too much research. I know that's quite so like get to know the substances and perhaps don't look at the first results in Google and perhaps watch more documentaries or speak to people directly. Look for some testimonials on YouTube and see how what's your gut reaction, how your heart is feeling about what you're hearing. Really listen to that rather than the mind perhaps saying like, I need to do ayahuasca and I'm just gonna go to the grandmother and have the biggest. More is better, bigger is better, deeper
Hmm.
is better.
Hmm.
I'm actually advocating for the more gentle experiences, the ones that we can absorb more, the ones that we can handle more. Once again, we're coming back to the nervous system. I think looking at experiences that we can really participate in, not just be enmeshed by, is most helpful. So doing the research on that for a lot of people, I recommend doing gentler medicines in terms of the dosage and also the types of medicine. There's a lot of research from MAPS, for example, on MDMA. There are a lot of ketamine clinics open up all across the nation, uh, and there are different dosages there. A lot of people have PTSD. People have trauma and more processing and heart opening to do. Those two seem to be very beneficial at the moment.
Hmm.
And the more alluring ones, like the more DMT ones, which has to do with ayahuasca or mushrooms or I don't know the cactuses. There are a bunch more the frog medicines. A lot of times those are the bigger experiences that I feel like it's for the more seasoned people
Hmm.
that have done a good amount of work and their nervous system can take it. They can surrender to those experiences and be in them rather than fight them or be
Yeah.
totally just washed by their energies, which are very strong. So doing that research and then most importantly finding somebody that they resonate with, somebody that they feel super safe. There are no doubts. It's total safety and agreement, and it can take some time. And when I decided I wanted to do ayahuasca, it took almost 3 years until I went to an ayahuasca center. And I didn't search that heavily, but I waited for the right moment, the right time, and said, "Okay, this is the one." I feel completely safe. I completely surrendered. This is where I feel loved and safe and secure. And this is those expanded states are the most vulnerable states that we can be in,
Yeah.
physically, emotionally, mentally. That's it's essential to find that complete trust. So I think any doubt there means no doubt that that's not the one.
What is it that you're excited about as far as altered states and personal growth?
Question. Um, I'm excited about the levels of awakening. I'm excited about people seeing bigger perspectives, people seeing more magic in their lives, people overcoming states that are draining them in some ways. Those anxiety, depression, suppression of emotions. People being able to express themselves more beautifully and fully in the world. And I think there's a lot of benefits for the greater good. People really feeling good in their skin, expressing how they think, how they feel, and sharing their gifts in the world. That's it's the greatest gift they can do. And when they let go and process a bunch of the junk that they have, and junk comes from all kinds of places. It can come, of course, from parents to all kinds of things in childhood and so forth. Distractions from TV and social media, and everything. So it's the more we digest those things, the more we clear our brilliant minds, bodies, our vehicles, our souls can express themselves in their natural state, and that is just the flow of life, just seeing a sunrise and a sunset, As we spoke about the seasons before we started recording, like
Yeah.
nature is beautiful, and we are nature, and we are an expression of God in that way, or consciousness, the universe, however people want to express. It's already beautiful. It's about really cleaning up, doing a little cleanup, like cleaning the oceans, and they're beautiful on their own. And yeah, specifically, as I said about the ancestral healing, I'm very excited about it because I feel like there's a lot of ancestral healing to be done. If you've heard of the yugas or the ages, we
Mm-hmm.
came out of the dark ages, at least based on some teachings around 1700 into the Bronze Age. That apparently lasts for about 2,400 years, and so we moved to a silver or golden age, and so we go into the lighter and more harmonious and heart space places and states of being. And so I think a lot, I mean, all of us in physical form at the moment are carrying a lot of ancestral trauma, ancestral disharmony in some ways. So that's a bunch of the cleaning up that has to be done in order to express ourselves in the more natural states.
Love that. How can people learn more about you, Yoni?
They can go to my website, yonihavana.com. Uh, that's where they find everything. My men's community and retreats is moi.community, which stands for Men of Integrity. And then I have my Yoni Havana podcast on all platforms. They can go and listen to some of the podcasts that I've had. Um, yeah, I don't know exactly when I launched my season 2. I am doing a few things at the moment, so I'm giving myself grace. I like to do things well, and so
Mm-hmm. We'll
I'm
make
taking my
sure to
time.
have links to all those places in the show notes here.
Thank you so much.
And Yoni, what's the one insight that you want the audience to leave with today?
Good question. Let me think about that for a second. This is my okay. I'm gonna call it in a certain way. The language, I think, matters less. It's a concept.
Mm-hmm.
I think heaven and hell are on earth. They're not outside. So there's heaven and earth, hell and earth, and it's up to us to create that reality for ourselves. There's a saying of Dr. Joe Dispenza that our personality creates our personal reality. I think that's the reflection of our feelings, or our energy is the projection that we see outside of us, our lives. And so creating your own heaven and earth is your responsibility as an adult, and you can do it. And if you set your mind to it, it's going to happen.
Mm. I really like that a lot. Thank you so much for being with us here today, Yoni.
Thank you for having me, Joshua. Lots of fun.
Hey there. If you feel like something holds you back from reaching your true potential, listen up. I've got something incredible to share with you. I'm offering a free 7-day email program that helps you break through those blocks to get to the unshakable confidence and success that you deserve. Imagine starting each day with a clear mind, a strong sense of purpose, and the confidence to go after whatever it is that you truly want. This program guides you through a powerful process to uncover and then eliminate the root causes of your limitations. You receive daily emails with practical steps, immersive audio exercises, and techniques that help you rewrite your personal story. As your expert coach, I am there to support you every step of the way. Now, people have used this program to remove old triggers and create a new empowering mindset, or others have used it to remove resistance to taking certain actions. You can have these same kind of results or something different. If you feel ready to break free from what holds you back, the fears, the worries, the anxieties, those old patterns, whatever they are, and you're ready to embrace a life of confidence and fulfillment, go to xfactorhypnosis.com/transform. It's completely free and you gain a more empowered you. You can use the link in the show notes or just type xfactorhypnosis.com/transform into your favorite browser. Thanks for listening. And remember, Stay curious, keep growing, and embrace your transformation.